We're recording.
Carmen.
Had to get that light out of the background.
Oh, do you need me to move somewhere?
No, that's good. At sunrise on the first day of November, they had disappeared from sight, only to reappear in everyone's dooryards. The dooryards, hanging pathetically from trees and vine rafters, and draped helplessly over car fenders as they passed through town. I had never known why I read that book years ago, but this one bit of information is the priceless. The trick was to undress in the kitchen by the stove, then opening the door to the hall, make a dive for the Arctic regions upstairs, and crawl in under the big down puff, which had been one of my first Christmas presents. As I opened the door, the wind took my breath and tossed it a mile or so down the room. The storm door was wrenched out of my hand and blown back against the house with a bang that cracked the pane. It came at last, and then the long, difficult drive home. The trip should have taken 20 minutes. It took about an hour and a half, but we made it. I shall probably never have to drive under such hard conditions again.
In that one. Turn on maybe next time, because I'm doing the 10 or 15 minutes maybe. Hey guys, welcome back to Herding Little Cows. So what you saw me doing earlier in the video was picking turkey. This turkey, I got a bag, I think it was 10 pounds of parts and pieces of turkey, legs, wings, that had been sitting in my freezer. So I thawed it. And I put half of it into this crock pot, as you can see here, and half into my other crock pot. My other crock pot's the exact same size. And I cooked them on low all day till they were cooked through. We were going to use them that night, but we decided to have a campfire instead. So these went into the fridge, and I picked it today. Picking turkey is much easier when the turkey is warm, not hot. If it's right after you stop cooking it, it's too hot on your hands. But when it's still warm, you're able to get a lot more turkey off. I have issues with my hands because of my Charcot-Marie tooth, so I know many of you could have probably done a much better job picking more turkey, but this was the turkey that I got off this half of the bag. I had picked the other part of the turkey, the other crock pot, yesterday. So I figured I'd show a video on how I make the turkey stock. So these cooked down, went into the fridge overnight, but if I wasn't going to put it in the fridge, I would do it right from the point of picking to make this stock. So I leave all the bones, all the skin, all the fatty pieces right here in the crock pot. I add onions, which we like onions, so I'm going to add 2. You do not need to remove the skin of the onion. I usually take off the outer layer if it looks dirty, but the skin of the onion actually adds a really nice color to the broth, and you don't need to do more than just have it. You could do more if you wanted to. That's how you get the skin off. You try to cut your fingers off too. You could do more than cut it in half. You can do quarters or whatever. But all of this is going to get drained to make your soup, so you don't have to worry about chunks in it because you'll be straining it later, which I will show you. So I'm doing 2. We're going to shut that alarm off. It's on my phone. We're going to do 2 onions. Some people just put the whole onion in, but the onions I have are kind of dirty, so I'm not putting in the ends. There's a lot of pieces of the vegetables that we throw away that you actually can use, but I don't have the best quality, nicest vegetables right now. In this bag, I have some frozen carrots that I'm going to add. They don't look really pretty because they've been sitting in the freezer, but I had gotten these carrots at a free, there's a free produce thing that happens around our area, and we got some really big carrots that the flavor, they were kind of hard to just eat. As they were a little tough, but I put them in the freezer to be able to make soup. So those got washed and ends cut off and put in the freezer bag. I also had bought a big thing of garlic, which started to sprout because I didn't use it at the time, the amount of time I wanted to. So as you can see, this is just a bag of garlic. I just cut off the ends and I throw multiple cloves into the pot. You can use the skins from the garlic too. You don't have to peel each one. I didn't know that until just a few months ago. It's definitely a time saver. So now all my carrots are used out of this bag, but I still have onions for months to use in my broth, and I just keep this in the freezer. The next thing I'm putting in is celery. You can use all of these celery leaves in the stock, but you can also just use the end of the celery, the parts you're going to throw away anyway. So we keep all of these good parts for later cooking.
Take a little flour.
Huh?
It's like a little flower.
So the leaves can also be used for soup. When you're done making your broth and you're ready to make your soup, you can cut the leaves up small to add when you would add carrots, celery, onions to your soup. And they give it a really good flavor, but they're parts that you're probably not going to eat with, you know, peanut butter spread on them or something. So that's a good time to use that. Like I said, sometimes I use those in the broth, but I actually happen to have an end. I'm cutting off the end because it's a little dirty, but you don't have to do this part. I just am not able to get over to the sink at the moment because of where I am. And this can go just like this right into the pot. Take off that one. I'm going to add a few more carrots because I only had those 2 little pieces. This is a great time to use up the ones that aren't shaped right, that are hard to cut into little parts and pieces for your kids. You can add those again whole. And last thing I'm going to add is a couple bay leaves. Bay leaves are very, very cheap, and they add amazing flavor. It makes the flavors richer. But this container, this is 1 ounce of bay leaves that I got for $1.10 at the Amish market. And I use 4 or 5 at a time. So this will last for a long time. So that is the basics of bone broth. I put all of this stuff in. Oh, I forgot one ingredient. Hold on. Last ingredient, and I need to get more. But this is apple cider vinegar. With the mother, I don't know how important that is for actual bone broth. With the mother is raw apple cider vinegar, and it's very good for your health. I don't know if you need to use this kind specifically for your bone broth. This is the one that I use, like the raw with the mother. You can get other brands. But if you add vinegar to your bone broth, it helps to pull out some of the minerals that are in the bones and helps make the broth richer, more flavorful, but it also gives you more nutrients in it. So I don't measure. I add 1/4 to 1/2 cup of vinegar. You will not taste it in the end. My mom, who does not like vinegar, now adds vinegar to her bone broth every time because she realizes she doesn't taste it. So then you would take this crock pot, you would cover the ingredients with water, and then you would leave it on to cook for up to 48 hours. I usually do 24 to 36 because that's usually timing wise when I have time to strain it and everything. So this is the bone broth. This is the finished meat. We're going to put this meat away so we can use it for soup later. I'm going to add water to this, move it over to another counter, and we will be back in just a minute. Okay, so as you can see, I have added water to the stuff I just had on the other counter. Just going to use my spoon to get it all down. I was able to put about 4 quart jars full of water in here with the turkey and the vegetables that I had added. I'm going to put on the top. I usually turn it to high to get it going, and then I'll turn it down to low to let it cook the 24 to 36 to 48 hours, however much you're going to cook it. I usually move these back on the counter so that the kids don't touch them, but I moved them forward so you could see what we were doing. And then this is the bone broth. I'm actually going to get out a bowl so I can show you. Of course, I don't have a bowl. Maybe Mark can grab me one over there. So this bone broth that I'm going to show you has been cooking for, I think I started it last night, so 20-ish hours this has been cooking. So what I would normally do if I was ready to strain this is I would take this strainer, put it on top of one of my big pans, and I would just gradually dump the stuff in to be able to get out all these big chunks. You at that point could pick some more of the meat off. Some people do that, but I usually don't have time at the time that I'm doing that. There is a nice layer of fat on top of here. A lot of people would make you think that fat is bad, and there are a lot of fats in our world that are bad. They shouldn't be eating a lot of, like margarine and things like that. But this fat is from good quality sources, especially depending where you source your meat from. This was meat that was handed to me, but some people use only grass-fed and organic things, which makes it even more nutrient dense. But this fat is good for your family. It helps keep you full longer. And having this broth You can either make soup out of it, which is what our family normally does. It freezes very well, and you can use it when you're sick, even if it's just to sip on bone broth. If you haven't been able to eat anything because you've been sick, throwing up, diarrhea, those types of things, it adds a lot of nutrition to your system in a very easy way that your stomach can digest. And there's a lot of just nutritious food to be able to feed your family from what mostly would have been scraps that people would have thrown away. The amount of veggies that I used in there, I probably used, I don't know, maybe $1 worth of veggies from the different sources that I had. Sometimes it's cheaper, sometimes a little more expensive, depending on where I got the vegetables. But turkey bones you would have thrown away and not used. So you can get all these quarts of good turkey broth for pennies. So I hope that you enjoy this. If you have questions, please leave them in the comments on YouTube or on Facebook. I'd love to answer them. And I will show you on another video, another day, how we make turkey soup or chicken soup. Thanks for joining us. Have a good day.